repeat the non-conformist oath. I promise to be different. I promise to be unique. I promise not to repeat things other people say.
And welcome to another episode of Positive Blatherings with Fitz. Today is very special because I'm talking to someone who I respect very, very much, someone who I look up to, even though he's younger than me, but not by much. We actually go all the way back to high school. We were in high school together, and he's done very well for himself, and I like to check in with him from time to time. Plus, he just came out with a brand new book. It's called Rise of the Filmtrepreneur. He also has an audiobook on Audible, and you can check that out as well. So his name is Alex Ferrari. He started Indie Film Hustle. He's a director, a writer, and has just done so much for indie filmmakers in the last few years that I just wanted to reconnect with him and talk about his new book, Rise of the Filmtrepreneur. I recorded this last week, so let's hang out with Alex right now.
How you doing, brother?
I'm all right.
You look tired, man. You okay?
Yeah. I'm always tired. That's you know how it is, man. You go one day after the next, and if you're the only one doing everything, so many hours in a day. I mean,
yeah, I know that feeling, brother.
I mean, I'm not doing everything that you're laying down in that book, though. Holy shit, dude. Damn.
You mean this book, sir?
That book. Yeah, let's get right into that now. So I would like to I'd like to be the asshole here.
Please.
I want to play devil's asshole.
Yeah. No, I want you to. I love it.
Okay. And now first of all, I think I've got an hour left on the audiobook. Great job on the audiobook. It's really cool.
Thanks.
It's cool when, like, that's the first time I've ever heard an audiobook done by someone that I know. So it was kind of an interesting experience because it felt like I was kind of just talking to you right there, you know. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. But
so the Filmtrepreneur, Rise of the Filmtrepreneur, your new work, and it's more than just a work. It's a philosophy. It's a way of life. It's a business model. It's like all these things wrapped into one that it's not for the faint of heart, man.
Oh no, this is not for the hobbyist. This is not for someone who's just like, hey, I want to make some pretty pictures. I want to make some movies. Like, no, this is look, it's the same thing as this, man. And this is where filmmakers fall so into these deep holes. A lot of filmmakers jump into the business I'm like, I just want to tell some stories. I want to be an artist. That's great. And that's called being a hobbyist. That's someone who is equivalent of me picking up a guitar, learning how to play it, and then taking a gig here or there at a coffee shop, but I'm not making a living with my art. That's what that is. That's not what this book is for. This book is for someone who's serious, who wants to build a career, build a business around their art. But it's work. It's no question. It's work. No, but that's what a business and a career is.
Yeah. I would argue that it's more work than the traditional route, even though the traditional route is, broken. We talk about how it's broken. But man, just thinking about all the things, and you really left no stone unturned. You investigated every angle. And I think the best part about it is because you've done all this stuff before and you figured it out as you were going along. You sort of tripped over all these things going, oh crap, that works. And other people can use it too. Now, there were a couple of things that I was like, I'm too lazy to do that. I'm like, I am too lazy to do all of that work for a movie. Now, let me just ask you this one question. So with your Filmtrepreneur approach to things, how do you, let's say you have this script that you really want to do, but it's not going to work for that way. You know what I mean? Do you just shelve those things and do things like write specifically for this method?
So what is okay? So let's analyze that. What is the story of this script? Like, what is this? Is this a passion project? Because look, if it's a passion project and it's something that you're like, I wrote this script. This is the script I want to make. Like, I have scripts that I've written that I would love to make, but they're very expensive. They're not cheap movies to make. So unfortunately, you and I have chosen an art form that's extremely expensive. This is an expensive art form. So unfortunately, the realities of the world are that I might write the next big Marvel epic, and I have my own Avengers script that I would love to make, but with my own characters in it. Sure. And it's only going to cost me $100 million. Unfortunately, that is not realistic. So regardless if you have a passion project or not, you've got to figure out how to get it done, whether that means bringing the budget down or attaching certain talent or going after a certain niche or positioning it in a way that it can be done. This is the reality of this business, and this is not what a lot of people like to talk about. This is not the fluffy stuff that they're taught in schools. It's not the fluffy stuff that Hollywood puts out. You know, like I always say that Hollywood's great at the sizzle, but it's really bad at the steak. You know, it shows the Hollywood, and I think I told you this, the Hollywood Boulevard example. Yeah. Like when you watch Hollywood Boulevard on Oscars, it looks great, but if you actually ever visit Hollywood Boulevard, it's crap. You know, it's a scary place. Mm-hmm. That's what these kind of ideas that have been floating around for decades is about. This is not a fun conversation to have with an artist. I've had this conversation with filmmakers, and they get upset. I'm like, dude, I don't shoot the messenger. This is just the reality of where we're at. I'm not saying, can it happen? Of course, somebody could find some money and you could blow up to be the next Paranormal Activity, or it could blow up to be the next Napoleon Dynamite, or one of the other 5 or 10 examples that are outliers in lottery tickets. But that's just not the reality of this business. It's the equivalent of me opening up a brewery, like, you know, a craft brewery, you know, place. I have no idea about, but I really want to make it. And I just need, I need $2-3 million to get the factory up, you know, I don't even know what it's called. Some sort of factory to make all the beer, I don't even know, because I don't drink. But you know what I mean? It's the equivalent of me, like, I have a business idea and I want to do that business idea to a really high level, but I've never done a business before. And there's no real way I know I'm going to get my money back for it. But that's what artists do. Yeah. So unfortunately, we're not painters. Unfortunately, we're not musicians that could just pick up an inexpensive, you know, relative speaking, inexpensive instrument and play or write music. Even writers. I mean, writers is just cheap. You need a laptop and some software, and you're a writer. That's why everyone's a screenwriter. I'm sorry?
Or pen and paper if you really want to cheapen it down.
I mean, if you want to go old school, you do that. You get that typewriter and you start typing away. Yeah. It's very affordable to express yourself as an artist that way, but we have chosen a very expensive, one of the most expensive mediums in the planet.
Yeah. So we've already started. We shot a third of our Bottom Feeders film already.
Nice. By the way, congratulations on that.
Thank you. We got all the exteriors done, and then I listened to your audio.
Sorry.
And then I'm starting to rethink everything because I'll be honest with you, we didn't obviously go the Filmtrepreneur route. We had a script. We decided we were going to put as much money as we can of our own money into it, and then try to find the rest, and also try to get, people to work at a reduced rate and try to cut deals and all that kind of stuff. And so we're basically looking at, we have to shoot the rest of the movie, and we're not really sure how much money we can get. We're not, there's like, well, it could go this way, or this way. So now you've got, this option, and this option, and how the film's going to be. It'll be the best it can be either way. So I started thinking, and I'm like, wow, how can I apply these techniques to what we have left? And it was really difficult, and I really came up short. But I have to tell you, there was one I don't want to say took issue, but I laughed out loud in one of your examples when you're talking about using, named stars, named actors, and you're like, if you want to get someone to come to Buffalo, New York in the middle of winter for 2,000,
I did that for you. I swear to God, when I wrote that, I was thinking of you. I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a little shout out to Scott on that one.
Oh, I screamed. I was like, ah! That was so funny. I'm like, it's only 1,000. It's not 2,000. Jeremy's coming. He's coming to Rochester to shoot a day. I think he's got 3 words to say.
Right.
In all fairness, his because of our budget, the original role that he was cast for was cut, so we had to find something else for him just to keep him in the film. But I was laughing at that because I'm thinking you're so right, and it's such a difficult thing when you play in that catch-22. Like, you need money to get a name, you need a name to get money, and then you just run around in circles, and then you go, wow, the script's good enough without a name. The script, our local talent is good enough, and that could be true, but nobody's going to care because they're not going to watch it because they don't recognize any names.
Well, the relevance is this, man. It's not about talent. See, a lot of filmmaking, unfortunately, in today's world, talent is irrelevant.
Yeah.
I know it's a very rough thing to say, and of course you need talented people. Of course you need good actors. But when I'm saying, like, if it's bad actors, it's not going to work. But you can find there's so much talent out there that is untapped that no one's ever seen before. But in the media landscape that we're in, or I call the new film economy, it is irrelevant. It is absolutely irrelevant. If you have a really great story, I just watched a handful of these small independents that are great movies, but they're not getting a lot of press or a lot of attention because there's just too much competition.
Yeah.
It is not the olden days of the 90s and the early 2000s where you could stand out with a really great movie. And look, at the end of the day, the cream rises to the top and all that stuff, and fine. But on a realistic, pragmatic way of looking at things, it's almost irrelevant. So that's why the only power you really have to penetrate the marketplace is niche, is to connect emotionally with a group of people. And if that is within a tribal sense, meaning it's something that they believe in, whether it's religion or politics, or if it's something they're passionate about, like skateboarding, surfing, or being a vegan, something along those, that is what really connects. That's what will cut through all the marketing, all the hundreds of $1 million that Hollywood is doing. It's the only hope we have as independent filmmakers to make any noise. And it has to be brought down to a much smaller, you're becoming a microbrewery where a lot of, and I'm going to use a brewery thing, you're becoming a microbrewery as opposed to being Budweiser. And most independent filmmakers go, I've never made a beer before, but I'm going to open up Budweiser. Right. As opposed to, like, I'm going to make one great craft beer. And I'm going to focus that craft beer on people who just like this kind of beer, and then grow from there. It's the ego and the horse and the cart and that whole thing.
So tell me about how you factor in SAG into this whole Filmtrepreneur model, trying to use named actors and things of that nature. In my experience with what we were doing, SAG really mucked us up bad. So we ended up going for completely non-union because we had one person that had joined the union and we couldn't afford to do it by their rules.
Of course. So I'm going to just give you an example of a filmmaker who had a similar scenario, and it's a case study in my book. I don't talk about the SAG aspect of it in the book, but the movie For Lovers Only. For Lovers Only was a movie directed by the Polish brothers, Michael and Mark Polish, who are established directors who've done studio projects and things like that. And they went out and hired Stana Katic, who was the star of Castle, the TV show Castle, and now she's on an Amazon show. And she had a very huge fan base. And she's obviously a SAG actress. Mm-hmm. And what the boys did is they made this movie for literally zero budget. If you read in the book, they made it for no money. They did not work with SAG at all, but the movie eventually went on to make over $500,000. And then SAG came calling, and they basically told SAG, sorry, I didn't sign a deal with you. I'm sorry. And they're not going to punish Stana because she's making $50,000, $100,000 a week on Castle. So They did nothing. But you know who did do something? The DGA. The DGA went after them because they were in the movie, but they acted as the producers and they didn't work within the DGA's rules. So they had much bigger problems with the DGA than with SAG. So there's two ways of going about it with SAG. One, you can, if you're making a micro budget movie for $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, dude, come on. You're basically doing an experimental film.
Sure.
So you're going out there and seeing what happens. So you go, you shoot some stuff, see what happens. After the movie is done, go to SAG and go, hey, look, we shot this thing. We really didn't know if it was going to even work out. How do we get, in good graces? And at that point, and you pay everybody the same rate that you pay everybody else, what's required. Then after the movie is done, you go back to SAG and talk to them.
See, that was the problem that we had, our film being ultra low budget, which is anything under $250,000. And that's the lowest thing that they have.
Yeah, because they can't understand a movie being made for $5,000. It is not in their model. They don't want to deal. They don't understand. They don't want to deal with, some yahoos making a movie for $5,000. That's the way they look at it. I'm one of those yahoos, by the way. I've made my movies for like $5,000 or $6,000.
The problem we had was that the actress that we had cast didn't want to ruffle the feathers at SAG because she was newly joined.
And you cast somebody else.
Yeah.
Bottom line, you cast somebody. No, you cast somebody else. Look, you got to work with people who are willing to work with you. At this point in the game, look, this is what we're going to do. If you're scared of the union and you're scared of SAG and you're scared of what's going to happen, look, we're just trying to make something happen here. We're not trying to abuse you. We're not going to do anything. Everything's on the up and up here. We're going to pay you what they're going to pay you. If it works, great. We'll get on board. We'll sign with SAG, make sure everything is taken care of after the fact. Films get done like this all the time. SAG is too small of an organization to track the tens of thousands of films being made just in the U.S. alone every year.
Yeah.
So it's not anything against SAG, but at a certain point, there has to be, you have to have, look, if you're making a movie for $5,000, does it make sense to spend $5,000 on like putting money in deposits and all this? It doesn't make any sense. You're now hindering the process. You're hindering trying to make a movie. So if there's two ways to go. If it's a really, really low budget, go out, shoot some stuff, see what happens. If it happens, then go back to SAG and ask. If it's a little bit bigger, $50,000, $60,000, use their ultra low budget or use their experimental. I don't even know what the contracts are, and work on it that way. But either way, there is a way to work with it, but it just depends on your budget. If your budget can't handle it, then either don't use SAG actors or use SAG actors who'll understand the process that you're working with. Like, look, let's just get this done. Let's get this in the can. And then afterwards, let's go back and let's work with the union. It happens all the time. By the way, the Polish brothers, they never worked with SAG. That was a closed case. And that was a very public, $500,000 they made off of that movie. Mm-hmm. And SAG really didn't do anything because they didn't sign a deal with them. So the only person that was in trouble was Stana. But you think they were going to do anything to Stana? No, of course not. That was, they're making, it's just a weird thing. But, and forget about DGA or WGA at the low budget. You shouldn't be working with those unions if you're at the micro budget level.
We had some union things happen here in New York this last summer with a film that was shooting here called Drunk Bus. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you heard about it. Probably not. But basically there was some hijinks, some tomfoolery going on with the budget. And so one of the IATSE or one of the local unions had to jump in and flip it. So, and then it shut it down. And then they went and shot, in some podunk town with a bunch of scab crew and everything. And it was just a disaster. So like things that have been happening around here and everybody, that was the one thing when you get to a certain level in filmmaking, at least around here, people start getting all crazy about unions and SAG. And they I don't know if it's just a scare tactic because they want you to be frightened and not try, but it's just like, you think that as soon as you finish your movie, there's going to be these, dudes in black coats and trench coats that are going to come and say, yeah, we're with SAG. See, you owe us 50,000 G's. See,
but the thing that's not the way it works. Yeah. If you sign a deal with the unions or you use union people, you've got to, either work with the people that you're working with or work with the unions. look, at a $50,000 budget, if you got IATSE running on you, I mean, that means there's just nothing there in the market. Because, I mean, I remember working in Florida where there was $1 million, I'm not crapping, $1 million movie that I was doing post on. And the director was shooting on a mini DV. This is a weird story. They were shooting on a mini DV Panasonic HVX or DVX 100A mini DV camera. IATSE showed up because they had everything. They had these, trucks and everything, and they were using non-union. But IATSE showed up, and they looked at the camera, and they said, "Yeah, we're good." And they just walked away. They just walked away because they knew there was no money, or at least they thought there was no money. They didn't even think that $1 million budget would use such a crappy camera.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was either that or film, and they wanted to go with the film look,
right.
the mini DV look as well.
Wanted to get that 24p video, baby.
That's right, baby.
I remember that camera when that came out. We all
yeah, man. That's when I shot my first big short on. It was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so look, sometimes you've got to be a little bit of a pirate on this situation. You got to do a little pirate of filmmaking. I shot an entire movie at the Sundance Film Festival without anyone's permission. I just ran around with a crew of 3 people and I shot an entire movie, and it's fantastic. It was great. So it all depends on how you do it and where you do it, and there's always ways around things.
I think. First of all, I want to get back to your book because we're starting to talk about more of my crap than your crap, and your crap is why we're talking about crap to begin with. How long did it take you to actually physically write the book, to get it done, to at least to send to an editor or for a first draft? Like, how long did you have your nose to the grindstone?
It was pretty quick, man. I wrote it.
Cranked it out.
About 6 weeks, 7 weeks.
That's great though. That's great.
I just started writing, and my first book took a year. So Shooting for the Mob took about a year to write because it was much more emotional and it was just a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But this was a technical book. So once I sat down, once I had it outlined, just basically the chapters, I was writing about 1,000 to 1,500 words a day. And when I sat down to write the distribution chapter, I was only going to have 1 or 2 chapters on distribution. It ended up being 15,000 words. Then the whole distributor thing came up while I was writing it. So I was like, I got to finish that up. Now I got to put that in there. And then I added, the predatory film distributor chapter and all those things. But it was a really quick write for me. And I basically started this out in the summer. I think when I launched filmtrepreneur.com and the podcast, I had already started to outline it. I had the book on pre-sale before I started I finished writing it. So it was on pre-sale in July because I was like, that's a great way to put pressure on.
Yeah, it's a great motivator. I got to get this done or I'm going to be in trouble. So with all that you're doing with your Indie Film Hustle TV and the Filmtrepreneur and all the podcasts and everything that you've got going on, tell me how you organize your day. How do you organize your time on a daily basis? Because you've got to be disciplined or else you'd never get all this stuff done. You've got to I feel like I don't feel like I'm disciplined. I feel like I'm hard on myself, but I wake up every morning around 4:15 to go to the gym. I work out, come home, get things ready, probably do a little bit of work, maybe 30, 40 minutes, then get breakfast ready for the kids, get them off to school, come in, and then just start working on my day. Each day is a little bit different depending on the day. Some days are batching podcast episodes. Other days are doing interviews. And other days are creating content for IFH TV. Other days are writing. So if I'm in the middle of writing a book, the first hour of the day will be dedicated to just writing. Mm-hmm. So, like right now, as we speak, right before I got on here, I am now finally putting my nose to the grindstone on getting the Shooting for the Mob audiobook done. Because now I've got the first audiobook done, I'm like, okay. So, that's it's just much more emotional for me to go through that story, but I'm doing that now. So I'm now pounding through that to get that done because a lot of people want the audiobook. They want the audiobook and the response from this book. Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to read Shooting for the Mob, but it's another thing to hear me tell the story with me doing the voice. Yeah. No, that's
me doing the voice of Jimmy and me doing like characters. It's like, hey kid, Yeah, I do. Hey, kid, how you doing? Kid? Like I do voices in the story. So yeah, I do that, and then I clock out around 6:00, and in between there, sometimes I'll meditate between an hour to 2 hours a day, sometime during the day, and I'm just constantly pounding it. So it depends on what projects I have on my table right now. So I just try to knock out things in order, deal with email, I do consulting. So, I schedule in my consulting in there as well. And just dealing with things little by little. I try not to leave my office. I'm a hermit. So I try, for me to go out into public and take a meeting is a big deal just because I've got so much work to do. Mm-hmm. So, but I do take meetings every once in a while for, business meetings and things like that. But other than that, that's what I do, man. I grind it every day. But I think I said this in the book. It's like, if you love what you're doing, I love the grind. I love the grind. It's now, I can't live without it. I really can't. I love being back here, weekends, as much as I love being with my family, I miss the routine. I want to keep working because I get so much satisfaction out of it.
Do you have a home office, or you have a?
Yeah, this is my back. This is my. I have a back house, so this is my back house.
Cool. That it's funny that you brought up meditation, because that's one of the things that I wanted to see if you were into, because I know that in my experience with the different successful folks that I've talked to, meditation is like the cornerstone of their productivity.
Yes.
So I was curious about that. How long do you think you meditate on a daily basis generally?
Daily between 1 to 2 hours a day.
Really?
And yeah, every day, at least an hour every day. My attempt to do it, weekends are a little tougher with the family, but,
sure.
But generally speaking, once a day, 1 hour a day minimum. And then sometimes 2, if not. My record, I think, is 5.5 hours in a day. I just wanted to,
You must have had crap going on there.
Yeah, it was. The thing is when you meditate, for me, a lot of ideas fly into my head during that time. A lot of questions that I have questions I need answers. The answers will fly into my head during that meditation. It is a cornerstone of my creativity. A lot of the things that are in this book came through meditation. So, when I wrote this book, I was almost like a conduit. It just kind of completely just exploded out of me. It vomited out of me. I couldn't stop writing. I couldn't stop writing. It was such a, it was so much information. And I still, after the book is done, I can write another 30,000 words right now and add to this as a second edition right now. After the book, I finally gave it in and did it. There's been so many events that's happened since then, so many other ideas, other stories, other things to elaborate on the Filmtrepreneur method, that I'm already thinking about the sequel. I'm already thinking about what the next book is going to be. I already have my next 2 to 3 books in my head. So I'll start writing that probably after the new year. So my goal is going to be to do at least 1 book a year, possibly 2.
Nice.
And they will be self-published. The first book was published with the traditional publisher, and this one's self-published, and it makes absolutely no sense for me to go with a publisher.
Not with your reach now. You definitely can self-publish.
No, again, if it's a large, if it's one of the top 5 guys in New York, and they are going to get me get me a lot of press and raise my exposure and all that kind of stuff, that's a different conversation, and we can talk about it then. Then we're in the Gary V world at that point, and I'm open to that. Yeah, I'm open to that conversation, but generally speaking,
exactly.
Yeah, like I always say, I'll take the meeting with Marvel. Just Kevin, just call me.
Yeah.
I'll take the meeting. I'll take the meeting just for the mere fact to just at least come back to you guys and go, so this is what happened. This is what it's like when you walk into Marvel Studios to take a meeting. So that would be like I've said it 1,000 times, and I'm putting it out into the ether. I'm putting it up, Kevin. Anytime I'm ready to take that meeting.
But that stuff isn't cinema.
I know, Marty. I know it's not cinema, Marty. I understand.
It's not cinema. Sorry.
No, look. Let's just. I'm just gonna say something about that right now. Martin Scorsese can say whatever the hell he wants.
You're absolutely right.
He is a master. He is a living master. There's no question about it. He's one of the greatest cinematic directors of all time. Do I agree with his statement? No. Cinema is cinema. It all depends. Look, if there's an emotional, look, I don't know about you, but at the end of Endgame, I was crying. I was tearing up with the whole. Sorry, spoiler alert! If no one's seen it, there's something that really happens bad at the end.
You
haven't seen it? You haven't seen Endgame?
I haven't really. I haven't seen really many of the Marvel movies.
Okay, well then, but they have an emotional. You know, a lot of people get a lot of emotion out of those films.
Yeah.
And who's anyone to say what is impactful to me is irrelevant or not cinema? Right. No one is the guardian, or no one is the person who says what cinema is. It's an opinion, like anybody else.
Speaking of cinema, Ego and Desire.
Yes.
Corner of Ego and Desire, your film that's just being released. What is that? That coming out on Amazon Prime?
It's going to come out January 21st, 2020. It's going to be available on Prime and Apple TV, but exclusively on IFH TV. You will get director commentary, behind the scenes, documentaries, and then additional coursework around how I made it exclusively on IFH TV. So you'll be able to get that as part of the membership, or if you want to do an outright purchase.
Yeah. Hey man, I got to say, I totally forgot about my, my subscription, and what do you know? It went up. I was like, oh, IFH TV. Oh yeah. I forgot about that. Year number 2. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
So that's the film you mentioned it earlier that you shot while the Sundance Film Festival is going on, people going crazy, running around, and you guys are with a camera shooting stuff, and nobody knows the better.
Oh, I shot in Sundance headquarters, 2 full scenes at Sundance headquarters. Like you've got to be a pirate, man. Like we're in this, when you're low budget, micro budget, you got to be a pirate.
So no, let me tell you something though, or my opinion on that is I agree. I am all for it. You have to also have a crew. Like you've got to have all pirates, because I want to go and be a pirate, and I got a bunch of other guys that are like, I don't know if I want to be a pirate.
No,
that's the hard part. That's the hard part.
You need a crew. You need a crew who's as crazy as you are. And look, when I was casting on the Corner of Ego and Desire, I met a few actors out here in LA, and they were just like, "Oh, I can't do that. I'm going to get arrested." And I'm like, well, "This is not your movie, dude." So I needed to get 3 actors who were crazy enough to go on the journey with me, and I did with Sonia, Rob, and Randy. And these guys were, they were just game. They were just like, I'm whatever you want to do, let's just go do it. And I never had an issue with anybody, including my crew, which was small, but still, I had my main man, Austin, who's my DP, and my audio guy, and a friend of mine, Straw, who came out and just did anything I want him to do. It was great. It was just a great experience. We shot in 36 hours, I think it was total amount of filming time, and shot over the course of 4 days while I was doing interviews for the podcast. So it was a wonderful experience, one of the greatest creative experiences I've ever had. But if you don't have a crew who believes what you're doing, it's not going to work. And especially cast. If your cast doesn't understand or is not willing to go down this crazy road with you, then it's not going to work, and you've got to recast to somebody who is willing to go out and do the pirate thing.
There's you see them on Facebook or whatever, these memes, and they go around where one of them says you can't pay your bills with exposure or something. Like I saw one.
The best. I got to stop you. The best comment I ever heard about exposure was Daniel Knopf, the creator of Carnival. He's like, exposure. People die of exposure, and I just thought that was the greatest line ever about that.
Exactly. But see, that's the problem that a lot of us run into when we want to do this pirate / guerrilla filmmaking approach, and let's just run out there, let's just shoot, and I know how scripted was that? Was that a scriptment, or was it very?
It was a scriptment. It was scriptment, and then the cast and I sat down and worked out. We filmed the whole thing. It's going to be on IFHTV. We actually worked out some of the story beats, some of the things, because I laid out I wrote the entire outline of the movie. So every scene was written by me, but then inside we're like, okay, what are we going to do with these characters here? How are we going to do that? And then while we were shooting, things would just come up, and then I would throw them lines. The stuff that they came up with, ad-libbing was amazing, especially Sonia, my lead in the movie. The stuff that comes out of her mouth, you just want to, like, I can't even believe that anyone would say things like that.
That's great.
But yeah, it was great.
Well, that's sort of what I'm getting at, is that no, go ahead.
No, you just I remember I was going to answer your question. So the reason why you have issues with trying to go do the pirate thing, like when I first did my very first short film, which was called Broken, this little short film I did in 2004, 2005, it was an extremely ambitious project. It was 100 visual effects shots, action, nobody. And the only thing I had going for me at the time, so I was young. I was still, I think, 29 or 30 at the time. And what I did was I had an office. I had a post-production suite. So I did my casting in this studio that I had rented. So there was a sense of legitimacy to me. I had no one knew me publicly at that point, and there was barely any social media at that point either. So I didn't have anything to leverage. The only thing I had to leverage was my professionalism and the work that I had done prior. So I would show any potential people I was working with, I would show them my commercial work, my editing work, my directing work that I had done. I had directed other things. So that was the legitimacy that brought these people along to come do that pirate thing with me, because that was a pirate situation as well. It's extremely ambitious, but I also built the project up to a way that it looked so ambitious. So I was marketing to my crew. I was marketing to my cast. So I had concept art done. I had behind the scenes. I had walkthrough videos. I had so many things that are associated with a big budget action movie that people that jumped on, they were just like, well, I just got to see if this thing's going to even come. Is it even going to make it? So that was the way I started. Now, because of my track record, my street credibility, it's a lot easier to call up 3 people who I've never heard of before, never met before, and say, hey guys, I want to cast you in my movie. It's going to be shot at Sundance. We have no permission to do anything. We're just going to go out there and guerrilla the whole thing. And we're just going to have fun. And at the end of the day, this movie will get seen by a lot of people, and it will get exposure, and you won't die from exposure, but it will get exposure. You will be paid something, minimum. And what do you think? All they have to do now is go to indiefilmhustle.com, and all the credibility I need is there. But it's taken me years to build that. So I think that's the problem with a lot of filmmakers when they've never done anything, and they want to go out and do something ambitious. You have nothing to prove that you can get there. You have nothing to prove that you can actually do what you're saying you're going to do. So that is the big key. So if you're trying to go down this road, filmmakers should really start building, like when Robert Rodriguez started out and he did El Mariachi, which was a very ambitious thing. He had his friend, and he had like 25 short films he did that no one had ever seen. And this one short film that was an award-winning short film he did at school. And that was it. No one really knew what he was doing. His best friend at the time, which was the lead. And then between the both of them, they just had relationships, and they leveraged their relationships. But then after El Mariachi, everything else changed.
25 short films. I know that because I have, 10 short films or whatever under my belt. And a short film, even if it's only 5 minutes long, it's still, that's still one hell of a...
Finish something. You finished something. It's
finished. You went through the whole process, and it's like night and day when you jump on to do a feature, just because, wow, we've been shooting for 8 days and we're still not done. There's something wrong here. I was done. I would have shot 6 of my short films in 8 days, but the leveraging of your past work, I'm going to try it. It's
all about marketing. So you need to understand how to brand yourself because you're not new to this game, dude. You're not a kid. You know, you haven't just came out of film school and you're wet behind the ears. You've shot before. You've done things. It's about how you present yourself. And what you need is a website. You need a good website that is well designed, well polished. You build up, you exaggerate things that might have happened a little bit. You fake it a little bit till you make it. And, and that's what you do. What do you think I did? When my first edit reel was completely bogus. So all I did was grab it was complete bogus. So this, I've told this story before publicly, but I'll say it here again. My first editing reel, I worked at a commercial house in Miami. And one day, a bunch of European directors, they just signed to represent like 5 or 6 big European directors. And all of their movies, all of their commercials and footage came over in like a big FedEx overseas box. I opened them up and there was just this gorgeous footage that just looked like, just all film, of course, because it was all film back then, all 35. It looked like stuff that Fincher and Bay were shooting. It was stunning. So what did I do? I grabbed that footage, re-edited fake commercials with it, slapped on a Nike logo at the end of it, or slapped on this other logo at the end of it, put 4 or 5 of those together, and went out as a freelance editor.
Yeah.
And faked it till I made it. Did I edit the commercials that they saw? Absolutely. Their assumption that I was associated with those brands is on them, not on me. If they asked me, did you work on Nike? I'm like, no, that's a spec spot. I never lied, because if I lie, you're going to get screwed. Right. But if their assumption, if they don't ask, that reel was so good that I didn't change it for 2 years. I had done real commercials. I would occasionally add a real commercial or a real spot that I did, but the other one, they were so good that I just, because I never had access to that kind of budgets again in my head. I did later, but not early on. Yeah. So you've got to fake it till you make it a little bit. There is an element of that. So if you create a larger than life image for yourself online, then people will look at you that way. So, you've got to just think about marketing and branding. I've been doing that since I was a kid. I did a whole episode on how I changed my name legally, when I was 18, because Ferrari wasn't my name in high school. So, and I did it for branding. At 18, I knew that. Yes, a lot of people don't know that, but I did an entire episode. I talked about personal branding, and I changed my last name legally. It's not too far off from what my real name was, but I changed it at 18.
Because I went to high school with you, and when I saw
because it's so close to my original name that you probably never even noticed it. So, but it was changed, and I changed it not because I have I changed it not because of a fetish for Ferrari, because I particularly don't. I'll take a Tesla. I'll even take a nice Prius. So I'm not a fan of Ferrari, but for whatever reason, that name stuck in my head for the longest time. I thought I was going to use it to be like an NFL star. Could you imagine a wide receiver, Ferrari down the line? Like, could you imagine? That would be an awesome name when I was going to be a Miami Dolphin wide receiver. And Marino was going to throw me those long bombs. Marino. So yeah, I had my name legally changed at 18. As soon as I turned 18, I did. My parents weren't happy about it, but it was just something I knew that I needed to do. And that last name has helped me so much in the course of my career for branding. People would remember my name in a list of editors. They would pop me right out because it just stuck and be like, I want to talk to this guy, just because of the last name. So that's personal branding. And I did that. That's an extreme version, but that's who I am, and that's what I wanted to do.
Version. I'm going to go back to my yearbook and pop that open and see what the hell your name was, because you're right. It wasn't that far off from that.
No, it's not.
Because when I reconnected with you, I didn't see any difference. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I did it. I came out with an entire episode about personal branding, and I just laid it out there. Because before I would just be like, I never talked about it, but I just said, you know what? I think it's just a lesson to learn here, man. I'm not telling people to go out and make, change their last name to something, Porsche or Lamborghini or something.
Not Lamborghini.
But for me, it made all the sense in the world. And it has been one of the best decisions I'd ever made in my career, because it just works It's just you can identify that. And when you think of the name Ferrari, what do you assume? Quality, speed, power, all of these things that are associated with that brand. I was able to attach that to my directing or whatever I was editing or whatever I was doing. And this was honestly not like, I wasn't this deep into it when I changed my name. I was like, that's a cool name. I just want to be.
You're 18 years old. You're like,
I'm 18. Don't think at 18, I'm sitting down with this analysis in my head. At 18, I'm just like, that's just a cool name. And I want that name.
What's the market?
And it's been
Ferrari, because I'm kind of,
I did
between Ferrari and
Jaguar and
Camaro is a pretty cool name too.
Mercedes, yes, Alex Mercedes. No, but yeah, it just was a name that stuck in my head for years before that. But that's personal branding. So that's, I think, what's something that you need to really think about. Not changing your name, but but to rebrand yourself on your website and just look, you're a bigger fish in a small pond, brother. So, you were similar to me. I was a bigger fish in a small pond in the Miami, Fort Lauderdale area, Broward area, in South Florida. So I was able to pop myself out a little bit by doing some good personal branding. It's a lot harder to do that here in LA because there's just so much more competition. Yeah. But if you're able to build a lot in your small pond like I did, so when I showed up 11 years ago, I didn't come in with nothing. I had reels, I had websites, I had movies done. I had an IMDb list. There was a lot of stuff I showed up to LA with, and that's how you do it. To show up clean, it's a little harder, but doable.
Let me tell you, anyone that buys all the inventory out of a Hollywood video has got my attention. I love that story. That's one of the best side hustle stories I've ever heard in my entire life. It's so perfect. When this film is out and the Ego and Desire is doing what it's doing, what do you think is going to be your next project? Is it going to be a film? You got a film possibly that you're gonna work on? Because you've got so many things right now going on. And for me, when I think about making a movie, I have one way of thinking about it, and your book has kind of shown me that there are so many ways to think about it, ways that like give me a headache. There's so many ways. But it's brilliant. It's really great stuff. And I think there's a lot of people, especially younger people coming up, who are way more savvy in the ways of social media and that kind of, because it's a way of thinking that not a lot of people, at least my age, our age, in the Gen X, the upper end of the Gen X's, a lot of them can't think that way. Like it's just impossible. It's beyond them.
Yeah. And look, the realities are, if I was at AFM this year. I went to AFM this year. I spoke at AFM this year. AFM is the American film market, for everyone who doesn't know what AFM is, where movies are bought and sold internationally. It's one of the biggest markets in the world, one of the top two. And while I was there, I came to the realization that, one, after talking to so many distributors, after this whole distributor thing that happened, the whole debacle of distributor happened, I got the opportunity to speak to a lot of distributors. And at one point I asked one of the distributors, I said, you guys really don't know what's working, do you? And they said, no, we basically try to acquire as many titles as humanly possible for no money. And then we throw them out through our system and throw them against the wall and see what sticks. The key is to build a giant library up, but they don't know what's going on. And at that moment, I realized that there were $500,000, $1 million movies with stars that had zero market value. Uh-huh. And I just, it wasn't surprising, but it was at the same time, because it is the reality of where we're at. And, I want filmmakers to think, anyone listening to this right now, if you don't change your thought pattern, if you do not change the way you think about making movies, you won't make it. Because this is exactly what happened in the publishing world, and it happened in the music industry, and now it's happening to our industry. It's a devaluation of media. music used to cost $17.99 for a CD for us to buy a song or two. When you and I were in high school, that's what it cost, right? You know,
one or two songs on the whole album. You had to buy the whole album.
Right. And then
they had a single out, you know.
And even at the single, you're still paying $3-4 for the single. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the cost to acquire the media. Not the studios, the labels controlled the access to the music you wanted. Then something called MP3s was invented. And when MP3 showed up, then all of a sudden, the value of music was free. You could download it for free. And it was so instant that I could download the entire catalog of the Beatles within 30 minutes. The entire catalog, their entire life's work in 30 minutes for free. It's that easy. So then the music industry fought back. They started suing people for downloading on Napster and stuff like that. They did all of that stuff. Yeah, they were trying to fight this. They were trying to fight technology. They were trying to fight what was inevitable. It was just going to happen, but they kept fighting because they wanted to hold on to the status quo. Same thing happened to Blockbuster. I have a whole chapter. I will have a case study and don't be Blockbuster, because they're trying to hold on to the golden goose. They're trying to hold on to the way they're making money. So then what happened? They're in disarray, and then someone called Steve Jobs shows up and goes, "Hey, look, guys, I got some technology here called the iPod, and people are just downloading music for free and putting it up there. You really can't fight piracy. You can only compete with it. So you got to make it easy enough for people to get the music they want, access to the music they want, and they'll pay for it." And he's like, "Everything's going to be 99 cents now." He's like, they were like, "What? Wait a minute. How about albums?" Albums are gone. And if you don't like it, good luck to you. And that's exactly what happened. So that was the first step of the development. So now something that cost $17.99 now costs $99 or free, depending on how you look at it. Then they took it a next step further and they created something called Spotify and Apple Music, where now for $10 a month, something like that, you have access to all music. So now each song is a fraction of a penny. So there's no money anymore in the sale or exploitation or the access to music anymore. It's the money's just not there like it used to be. You know, these millions and millions of dollars that were generated by the music industry and by artists is gone. It's gone. Whether you like it, don't like it, it's irrelevant. It's gone. So now what do musicians do? Where are they making their money? Touring, merch, sponsorship, access to themselves, meaning meet and greets, photo ops, autograph sessions, and all the other things, merches and sponsorships and touring. That is where they're making their money now. The music is given away for free. They put it up on YouTube. You can listen to it for free. They put it up on Spotify. They make no money. They make barely any money off that. So their mentality had to change for them to survive. That is what's happening in the film industry right now, where now you can get access to all movies through one of these many streaming platforms in the streaming wars that are coming up. Or you could go into the black market and bootleg it off, download it through BitTorrent, and piracy is always going to be a thing. You can't stop piracy. You just can't. It's just too large. The internet's too big. So now, we've been taught is if you make a movie, the only way you can make money with that movie is to sell access to that movie, to exploit the access that you can get to watch that movie, whether that be theatrical, DVD, Blu-ray, cable, airplane, cruise ships, and streaming. That is what we were taught, and you have to go through a distributor to do that. Well, that's not true. That system is broke. It is breaking down around us. You could see it at AFM this year. You could see that there was less distributors out there, that the model is changing. Nobody knows what's going on. And now streaming has dropped the prices. Like Amazon just literally dropped from 6 cents an hour of streaming that they would pay you on Amazon Prime to a scale from 1 cent to 12 cents now. So on the lowest end, which is where a lot of movies will live, they'll pay you 1 penny per hour streamed.
Wow.
So basically a 90-minute movie, you're making 1.5 cents. And I don't care if you see it. I mean, if it gets screened a million times, great. But every half cent that you go up could be thousands of dollars. So I did a whole episode on the reason why they did it and how you can hack it a little bit and get a better chance to make a little bit more money. But we're talking now about pennies. We're fighting over 3 cents, 4 cents, as opposed to when the DVDs were going on, everybody was making millions of dollars. When Blu-rays, everyone was making millions of dollars. In the old system, but that system is dead. It's gone. It's just gone. So if filmmakers don't get on board with thinking differently about how they make movies, they just won't survive. And that's okay. You don't have to listen to the Filmtrepreneur method. You don't have to think like an entrepreneurial filmmaker. You don't have to. It's no skin off my back. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to show you what's happening. And in my opinion, the only way independent films are going to survive is being entrepreneur. Independent filmmakers is to be entrepreneurial, is to be a filmtrepreneur. And if it's, is there always going to be the outlier? Yes. Is there always going to be someone who makes that little wonderful art house film that blows up? Yes. But they're becoming less and less, popular because it's just too much competition. There's just too much stuff going on.
Too much noise.
Yeah. So it's just, it's a reality that is a hard pill to swallow, especially for people of our generation. And the new kids coming up, they're much more open to it because they don't know any better. But for people who knew what it was like in the olden days, they're just like, this sucks. I'm like, yeah, it sucks, but it's the reality. I don't care it's the same thing that was said from film editors when Avid showed up. This sucks. What is this digital crap? Great. The same thing that film DP said about film when Alexa and Red showed up. It's just what it is. You can't fight it. You've got to adjust, pivot, and adapt. If you don't, you will die. It won't work. You won't make it.
And it basically means that if you want to make a living making movies, you got to really actually work harder. And you have to wear more.
Because it's never been easier. It's never been easier to make a movie.
Right.
The barrier to entry used to be the production of the movie. In the 80s and 90s, if you just made a movie.
And now.
Everybody and their mother can generally, and there's so much education out there and so much technology out there, affordable, that anybody and their mother can make a feature film, a series, anything like that. It's just so, and now the access to being able to put it up in the marketplace is also been dropped. The big difference is now you need to understand how to make a business out of this. Because before, the old system was, the only struggle I have is making it. Once I make it, I can hand it off to somebody and someone will pay me for it. That system is broken now. It's gone. It's gone. It doesn't exist. Even right now, that doesn't really exist anymore.
Okay. So let's take me. There's got to be some people out there that have my situation right now, and we'll close with this because I'm eating up all your whole day here.
No, I'm fine. I've set 5 hours aside for you, so whatever you want.
So let's say, okay, so for our Bottom Feeders movie, we've already kind of committed to the older style of putting, let's just round it to $50,000 in and trying to get some sort of, trying to go the festival route, trying to get it into, to get it picked up by a distributor or get it into, Netflix or whatever. So we're already a third, but here's the thing. We're already a third of the way through that. We did not start using the Filmtrepreneur idea, that method. We didn't start it that way. How does it get picked up from here? How do you pick up the pieces and
the story?
Tactic.
What's the story?
In the middle.
What's the story?
The story is two guys that are struggling to hang on to their college life. They're about to age out of it. One dude lives in his mom's basement. The other dude likes to date high school girls, and it's just their fun times. I mean, it is a college comedy.
So it's a college comedy. Okay, so that's fairly broad. Is there? Okay.
See, I've racked my brain and I can't find a niche to this.
I have a niche for you. Okay, the niche that I would on something like this, because of your status in your community, I would go after the regional cinema model. I would use the regional cinema model for this. The reason why is that you can't compete with other college comedies. You just can't. If it's a competition between watching Old School again or watching bottom feeders for the first time, most people are going to pick old school. No offense. It's just the way it is. Okay. So you need to find people who you can have an emotional connection to. And the only people that you can connect a film like this to emotionally is your local community, because you have a presence in your local community. So it's local boys do good. Come out, support local filmmakers, and between your radio show and between everything else that you do, you can galvanize your local community to do this. You can go to the local theaters and say, "Hey guys, this is who I am. Let's put this in here. Yeah. Let's do some screenings." You don't have to pay for forewalling. Try to partner with them 50-50. I promise you'll get a lot of response. Then you do a small theatrical run in your area, where you now make it an event. This is not just a screening. This is an event. You're going to have T-shirts. You're going to have merch. You're going to have stuff that people are going to want to buy. Why? Because they want to support you. Not particularly because of the movie, but they're going to support you and what you guys are trying to do. That's the story you've got to sell to your local community. Yeah, that's the only way
that's pretty much what we're doing. That was our approach. We were trying real hard to get local, like Three Heads Brewing, local brewery. We got them to give us all of their empties and signage and shirts and hats and stuff to put in the movie, along with a little bit of scratch to help with the production cost. But they're local heroes in the microbrewing arena. So it's like
right. And you can also leverage their audience for the movie. So you talk to them and you go, let's do a strategic partnership. They have an email list. Great. That's the email list that they're going to send out for the screenings. They're going to sell their beers. Let's see if you can figure out a way to do a screening. If it's not in a movie theater, maybe in a hall or something like that, where they can actually sell their beer there. Make it an event. You have to create an event style thing. And I have a chapter on that in the book called event style screenings, or event screenings. That is going to be your only hope. You've got to really do stuff regionally, partner with people in the community, which you seem like you'd be doing already, and try to get the budget down as low as humanly possible. Get it down to a ridiculously low budget, because if you're going to spend an extra 10 grand, is there an ROI on that 10 grand? You have to look at it like a business. If I spend that extra $10,000 to make this movie, am I going to get that $10,000 back, or can I just make it for 40 and maybe save the next 10 for marketing or other things or merch or whatever else that I can do to feed the business? You have to ask that question. Like, do I need the crane today? How can I make this? How can I make this without the crane? Will it affect the story that much more? Will the audience go, man, I wish I had that crane there? Yeah. Like, is it that? And that's hard for a filmmaker, because we are artists.
We're already shooting as bare bones, like freaking, we made things 2 shots just because it was easier to do the scene as a 2 shot rather than going back and forth and getting multiple angles. One thing that I won't put in the final of this, and that's still, I've got 10 to 15 days of shooting to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, can you drop those 10 or 15 down?
I would love to. I would love to, and maybe I can. You've got to figure out how much cheaper you can get this into the can. So just start slicing and dicing to the point where it's starting to get stupid. As long as you can create a minimal viable product, that is what you have to look at. You have to create a minimal viable film for the marketplace. What is the cheapest I can do that while still maintaining a quality level that the consumer is going to enjoy? And the regional cinema model, the event screenings, the strategic partnerships, that is the future of what you could do with this film. And the cheaper you make the movie, the better chances you are to get your return on it. Yeah. And also, you also have to ask yourself the question, what is your end game here? Is your end game money? Is your end game exposure? Is your end game, what is that? Because there's very different outcomes for what you want. Yeah. Some people just want to make this and go, I just want to show people that I can direct. If I make some money, great. Yeah, we want to make these all the time. Like, we wanted to start original movies from here all the time. And we don't care if they're like, everybody's heard of them. But if we can make enough money to pay off our investment and live and to make another movie and not be scrounging, that's what we'd like. That's our.
You want to create a business. You
Yeah.
want to create a filmpreneurial business, sir, is what you're saying.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's 100.
So I'll tell you a perfect example. There was a guest that I have. I just recorded him. He's not on the show yet. He's going to be on IFH TV in a few days, early. But his story is he's a filmmaker. He's got about 20 movies under his belt, and he's an independent filmmaker. He makes his first movie was made for $5,000. He licensed it out for he made on it. Oh God, I think he made like $50,000 off that, selling DVDs. And he was such a bad filmmaker at the beginning, he said, that the entire movie was a wide shot. He just didn't know any better. So it was wide shot. Like, so when he gave it to the editor's like, where's the coverage? He's like, what's coverage? Like, he had no idea. Yeah. So the whole movie was wide shots. It was basically a play. The whole movie was a play. But he was able to hustle it because why? His niche audience was African-American stories. He was doing the Tyler Perry thing. And there was a hole in that marketplace. So you should look for future movies. What is in your marketplace, your local marketplace, that is missing? What kind of cinema would people really be interested in your local? Could you tell stories about Buffalo, it's something that's so unique about your town that your local audience would go crazy for? Because no one's ever really done. Look what Kevin Smith did for New Jersey.
Everybody knows.
I read because he did something, and he obviously took it off to another level.
Sure.
But locally, everyone supports him because he's promoted it so heavily.
Well, that's really what we're trying. So we're in Rochester, which is an hour east of Buffalo. And Buffalo's we're rivals in the film community. Like a lot of the guys that I work with, their crew, they all go to Buffalo to work because that's where all the work is. Buffalo and Syracuse are on fire right now with films. There's people coming from everywhere to shoot movies. And they come to Rochester every once in a while. But for the most part, everybody's going to, east or west of us. And
so then do something for Rochester.
Right.
Do something for Rochester.
That's our whole thing is like, we're, a lot of the references in the script are Rochester references. We're trying to I'm trying to give cameos to local, celebrities.
Yeah, good.
Like that, people that I have connections with and be like, come in and just be the janitor and go by like that. People get a kick out of it,
So then in a Rochester film, you should absolutely market it as a Rochester film. You should actually say bottom feeders, something Rochester. Even if it's just the local screenings of it and the local thing, once you get it out into a larger market, you could just call it bottom feeders. But when you're marketing it to your local community, put Rochester in the name. Put a college comedy, a Rochester college comedy, right, or something like that. That is going to make everyone want to see it because, this is a hometown movie. That's an event, man. That's the key to making this work. And if you can create a niche if you can create movies for 5, 10, 15 grand, you create a group of people who are working with you that maybe you do partnerships with, maybe you share in the revenue with, and you start building a team around that, and you start building regional cinema for Rochester. Then maybe that goes out into Buffalo and Syracuse and other places like that, and you create that. Great. Then after that, when you put it up on Amazon Prime or other places, that's just extra stuff. But if you focus on your local community, which is that's the blue ocean for you.
Yeah.
In the book, the blue ocean, red ocean strategy.
Yep.
This is your blue ocean. Now, but you got no competition. No one's coming in going, I got to take over the Rochester independent film market with my indie movies. That's not a thing. So it's completely yours. So you should take advantage of that and build content for that audience, for that community. And you could build a really sustainable business doing that. After you've been able to build 2, 3, 4 of these movies like this, then you can kind of start growing. And then once your name starts getting bigger and bigger and your reputation becomes bigger and bigger in town, it'll be easier and easier to make these movies. And you'll be able to start figuring things out. You'll be able to bring in people locally a lot easier. And anybody you get in, any of these local celebrities that you're getting, leverage all of their social media, leverage all of their email list. And go, look, can you give a blast out? Hey, do you want to do this? Hey, can you do a signing? There's just so many ways that you can make money with this film. but you just have to be really smart about it. So I would change the marketing and make it really Rochester heavy and focus, because at the budget you're talking about, that local community can definitely support that. If this was a $500,000 $1 million budget film, I'd be like, that's probably not going to work.
Yeah.
But at the budget that you're talking about, dude, the guy that's in one of the case studies I did, Dalius, with that movie Pillhead, he made like 35 grand on the theatrical alone. You know, and then he started selling T-shirts, and he started selling other things, and then he started making money online, and then it grew from there. So it's definitely doable, and that's a much smaller town than what yours a much bigger town. Rochester's a much bigger city than where he's living. So you should really look into that. That would be my filmtrepreneurial advice as a consultant here for you, sir.
Hell yeah, and that's worth every dime that I just paid you. I do appreciate it, and it makes me feel better because I know we're on the right track, because that's kind of where we're heading. But you did give me some good ideas. Wrapping things up, what's in the near future for you?
Well, of course, the book Filmtrepreneur, Rise of the Filmtrepreneur. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, audiobook, paperback, and ebook. If you want to get the audiobook for free, all you've got to do is go to www.freefilmbook.com, sign up for the book, sign up for their 30-day free trial, and then you could just download the book for free. I get paid either way. And the reason that's a side hustle. So I've taught that little side hustle to authors, and they're like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, I get a commission when you sign up for free. And I also get a commission from the book that I'm selling. So it's a good way of supporting me and supporting what I'm trying to do, but it also gets you access to the book for free if you don't want to pay for it. I know a lot of people who listen to the audiobook and then go and buy the paperback so they can start making notes.
Yeah, that's where'd you go?
Yeah. The response I've been getting is that it's become a manual for a lot of people. People are just like, I got to go back and redline stuff.
Yeah, I was thinking that same thing, and that's the downfall with or the drawback to the audiobook is I listen to it and I'm like, oh, and I'm this is funny. I'm driving in my car and I want to record with my phone something you're saying on in the audiobook, but I'm listening to it through the Bluetooth in my car. So when I go into the audio recording app, it takes over the speakers and I can't record anything. So I'm like, and I'm like driving off into the snowbank. And so, yeah, I get the hard copy, get the book. You can write your notes in there. That's a much better and safer idea. I agree with you.
Yeah. And then to get the book, you can go to filmbizbook.com. That's filmbizbook.com. It's associated with the full website, filmtrepreneur.com, and the podcast, where a lot of these case studies that I have in the book are on the podcast. So you can actually listen to full hour-long conversations on how these filmmakers applied the Filmtrepreneur method as well. My new movie's coming out January 21st, 2020, a few days before Sundance, poetically enough. And it will be available, like I said earlier, on Amazon, Apple TV, and exclusively on IFH TV with director commentary and a lot more special edition bonus stuff. IndieFilmHustle.com is where you can find everything and anything about me, about what I do. Bulletproof Screenwriting is there as well if you want to be information about screenwriting. And Indie Film Hustle TV. As you are a member, I'm putting a lot of energy in the new year. IFH TV is going to become, and it's already got, I think, over 1,000 hours of content, a lot of educational content. I want it to become streaming real world film education. That's kind of what I'm tagging it. It's going to be streaming real world education. So you'll be able to have access to it everywhere, Apple TV, Roku, and on your apps, iPhone and Android as well. So that's ifhtv.com or indiefilmhustle.tv.
You are a pirate and a pioneer,
hustler, sir.
A trailblazer. That's what I was looking for.
I try doing it.
I don't like that too much.
I try to help my community as much as possible, and I I wrote The Rise of the Filmtrepreneur because I think it's something that needed to be written. There is nothing else like it on the marketplace. No one's ever written anything like this, especially targeted towards filmmakers. It's basically what I did with Broken, my first short film, where I created arguably, I think, one of the first guerrilla film schools that was sold on a DVD back in 2005, when nobody was teaching filmmakers how to make films at an independent level. By the way, you can look on YouTube. I looked it up the other day. If you type in Broken in my name, there's 13-year, 14-year-old behind the scenes tutorials still up on YouTube.
Still up on YouTube.
So I still have I think I was the first guy up on YouTube who did that.
It had to be.
If I would have kept going, I would own. Like, can you imagine if I would have created a brand in 2005 and just kept pumping out? Oh, hey, God.
Look, doing it now. You're doing it now.
Yeah, I know. I'm doing it now. It took me 10 years to come back to it, but also I'm working on, and the last thing I'm working on the audiobook version of Shooting for the Mob, which is my first book about how I almost made a $20 million movie for the mafia.
I'm looking forward to that one. Forget about it.
Forget about it.
So maybe if you end up doing another, like a second edition for Rise of the Filmtrepreneur, maybe you could use, you might be able to use Bottom Feeders as a case study for how do you pull it out? Like, how do you switch your, what's the word I'm looking for?
Gears, your gears, sir.
Swishing Jesus. Hello.
Strategy.
Midway through the production process. So,
it's funny. You're the second filmmaker who said that to me. Now that they've contacted me, like, I'm doing the Filmtrepreneur method. I want to be a case study of your next book, because I just pulled case studies from people I knew, and I think they're going to get a lot of attention in the book. The book's selling really well, and it's growing. And
nice.
It's good. There's no question I'm going to do a second. I'm not sure if I'll do a second edition. I just might do a second book.
Right.
Because if you study Gary Vee did Crush It, which is. This is my equivalent to Crush It, meaning in my business. And then he did another one called Crushing It, which was basically a lot of case study, lot of case studies about people implementing his Crush It mentality. And I think I'll probably do that as well. And it won't be the next book, but it'll be probably one of the next 2 or 3 books that I do. So I think it needs to be out there. I need to kind of jump on to this as well. So,
and then we got to get you to Rochester one of these days. Hopefully, we'll make that happen.
You let me look, dude. Talk to the film commission. I'm game.
Honestly, I'm gonna look at bringing you out myself and just cutting out the middleman, and just we'll figure it out between the two of us. With my company and with the people that I work with, it's probably better that way. Okay. When you get a government agency involved in anything, there's too much red. As love them to death as much as they do for our little community and filmmaking community. But yeah, we'll
work something out in 2020, man. We'll figure something out.
Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year. Congratulations on the book, the audio book, the streaming service, the movies, the empire. The Yoda, I mean, you got it all.
Listen, man, I'm just a humble hustler trying to make it through the day, brother.
Humble hustler. I love it. Hey, it's been a pleasure, and we'll catch up soon.
All right, man. Thanks, Ed.
Alex Ferrari, it's been great talking to you.